This is one of the worst laser cut jobs, as you can see, that I've got so far. So if I can make this one work, you can make it work on just about anything. Plus I want to show how I shape the leading edge, the trailing edge, give you a few tips on that subject. Okay, so what I'm doing for the horizontal stabilizer, this is just a poly bag, ordinary poly bag. It's very good because nothing sticks to it. It's just really, you can glue this stuff. So the wings are already shaped, sanded off, so I'm just gonna push them out of the way. It's a nice way to have these independent pieces of boards, because you can move them and shove them around and just move them around. It's just very nice to do that. So okay, let's focus. Horizontal stabilizers. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just cutting it off. I'm just gonna push it down here and here where the tabs are. These parts come loose. One push there, one on this corner. We have a frame, and drop them in a slot in here. Doesn't have to be perfect. But it's okay for what I need. What I'm gonna do is just, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, right? On this rib here, I can push it forward and into that corner, and I don't really care about the back side. So I'm just gonna do that, and I'm gonna glue it in place. Okay. The same with this rib here. I want to push it forward into that corner, get a nice fit to it. And if I have a little bit of gap on the back side, I don't really care about it, and you're gonna see why I'm doing that pretty soon. Alright, same thing on this rib. I'm just gonna push it towards that corner. Little gap on the back side, I don't really care about it. And the same on this one. I'm just gonna push it forward. Really, the fillets over here don't even exist. Not the best laser cut job, I have to admit. The only part that's gonna receive carbon fiber on the trailing edge is gonna be this part of the rudder, the fixed part of the rudder, right? And the way I want to put it on is, if you see, there's one side that has these threads, and the other side that looks kind of clean, right? So what I want to do, I want to put the clean side against the rudder itself. So what I'm doing, I'm just kind of unfilling in between my fingers like this. I'm gonna touch one end and let it dry up a little bit, and I'm gonna lightly tug on it, and I'm gonna do the other end. Okay. So I'm like that. And after that, I'm gonna do the middle. Okay. Now I'm gonna check. This looks good. I can feel it's just a little proud on both sides, so that's perfect. That's what I want to do, because I'm gonna sand it off to size anyway. So Because of that, I'm just going to continue and glue it on nicely all the way down. And I'm not trying to do both layers at a time. It's one at a time. Okay. There you go. And you could probably use some Q-tips, but I'm not going to use it this time because I want it to soak down in there and have a good bond to the wood itself. So I have a nice hard spot. What this is going to do is when the rudder wants to hit, and especially during the launch, it wants to go like this in this direction. In this plane, it wants to bend like that. So this is going to be a tremendous help to relieve the stress in that direction. And also when you're landing, and if your plane is rotating during the landing because you touch with a wingtip or something like that, when the rudder comes and touches the ground, it touches on a very fast sideways movement. When that tip is going to grab the ground, it wants to push it this way and really snap it off. So that's why I'm putting this reinforcement on the rudder. I'm not sure if you always, maybe you saw some of those videos of the launch or pictures when you can look at the rudder and the rudder looks like that. It looks like a pretzel, and it's a tremendous amount of force on this component. In my opinion, I think this is the component that takes most beating in a plane, especially a DLG. Takes the beating during the launch and a lot of beating during the landing. So this is perhaps the one component that we really need to pay attention to its strength and pay attention to how is it made. What I want to do here, after I glue the first layer of carbon fiber, I want to get rid of all those threads. I want to have a nice flat surface. If you don't get a flat surface in here when you glue the second layer of carbon fiber, it kind of goes in a wavy direction, and because the fibers are not exactly in a straight direction, they're not going to give you maximum strength. Besides that, it's going to give you some issues later on because it's not a nice flat surface. So what I do, I just take my sanding block and just sand them off with a few swipes, and you can run your finger off of it and you won't feel them. And that's about how you know you're done. And once you're done, don't worry about blowing the dust off or something like that. Go directly to the second piece and put it again the same way like you did before, with the threads. So the threads are going to show on this side. You don't want to put the threads on the other side because you're going to create those little waves in there. And I'm just going to give it a touch of glue here. I'm going to tug on the other side a little bit. Glue it on here like that. I'm going in the center again and glue it. I'm allowing the CA to wick into the fibers. I'm not worried about it coming off or anything like that. And you can do like that, so we have the ends, the center, and I can go center of it again, about quarter of the way down, just like an extra fingers. And after this, I'm just gonna glue the whole thing together. You can see the CA just wicks in and just spreads out. If you leave the dust on the other side, the dust will work as a kicker, and it's gonna help a lot with gluing the two sides together and giving you a nice surface. Another trick to this is to use some Q-tips. So if you want to put some pressure down and help it with the glue, you just can use some Q-tips. If you have a nice flat surface, you shouldn't have to use this a whole lot. And I can go on a flat side here, like that. Just push it down, all I'm doing. Yeah, I'm gonna glue the rest of it. And can use the Q-tip to remove the excess CA in there. Okay, and this part is done. These two layers of carbon fiber are going to help a lot with impact resistance, the shock of landing, and the stress on the takeoff on this part of the rudder. What I'm going to do next after this is I'm going to do a flat sanding. So I'm going to blend in all this little excess from the sides when you do the flat sanding, and also when you do the flat sanding you're gonna get rid of all this stuff in here. Another thing is gonna happen, see, like you have a little gap over here because of the ribs are a little bit short or something like that. When you sand it, you're gonna have all kinds of dust getting into those little nicks and crannies, and what you do after that, you can take some thin CA and hit those spots with thin CA and you're gonna have the dust is going to work as a filler, and you're going to have a nice hard spot and a good good bond without adding too much weight or being worried too much about the lack of fit on the parts or something like that. Okay, so another trick that I use here is that because on the front side you almost have like a flat surface, right? And you kind of go flat on flat when you glue them. That's why I favor the rib to go forward and glue it on the forward side rather than on the back side, because right here on the back side you can see you have like a U-shape pocket and you have the bottom of the rib, and between them you have that rectangular space that's being created. So when you sand the two sides, you're gonna fill that little gap in there with balsa dust, and if you give it a touch of CA, that's going to solve the problem of the parts not fitting quite very well, or you know. Okay, and alright, this guy is done, it's dried out already, so I'm just gonna touch stuff again. I want to get rid of again, I want to get rid of those little you know, of those little threads. And yeah, see that? They're all gone. And if you want, at this moment, you can probably touch it off with some thin CA again to make sure it's everything sealed, everything it's as glued as well as possible. This really doesn't add any weight, but it does add a lot of integrity to the structure. Okay, so alright, the next step was gonna be I'm gonna trim this off. I'm gonna trim that off, and I can glue just get a pair of scissors, get your flat surface over there and cut. It should be cut plenty close. And after that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just use my fine sanding paper, just trim it off. If you run your finger, you shouldn't feel a proud surface in there. And what I wanna do, I wanna sand it this way, so you just kind of press it against the balsa wood. If you sand it from this direction to backwards, you run into the risk of just unglue it, you are ungluing the surface. Alright, that looks good. And because I have a proud surface on both sides, I just want to maybe take one side and just sand it off a little bit. I'm checking on my fingers to see when I sand it off. I want a flat surface here. And there's a trick here what I'm doing. my fingers hold it on the back side, right? So as I make contact with the sanding paper, most of the sanding is done on the back side. If you would hold it on a flat surface like that, you cut the whole thing, and probably cut more from the front because of it is softer than the back side with the carbon. So I'm just distributing my I'm distributing my hold, my back pressure exactly when I want to sand it from. And I'm checking it out, moving over. And I'm basically going this direction, trying to take that thing off. And you can also see that I'm not cutting from the front almost at all, because you can still see the laser cut burn marks. Alright, so this side is nice and flat. I can put it on this face, and I can use this face now to glue the end pieces on. Now, when you glue the end pieces on, any laser cut is gonna leave a little bit of taper. The laser doesn't cut parallel; it cuts a little bit like that. So, depending on which way you put your pieces, you see you have gap in here, and if I put it in this direction, I have 0 gap. Okay. So right now I'm sitting flat on flat because I matched the taper by flipping it over. You have the correct taper to it. So I'm just gonna go like this. You can double check, use the rudder and put it on the back side, and make sure you are in a right position with it. And as you can see here, if this is my rudder, I kind of want to match the back side of it, and of course it's not going to match very well because I have this little extra material over there. So, but I want to get it as close as possible, try to match it. So right now it matches nicely. Okay, I'm going to move it on the side. I'm not really worried about the little bit of mismatch in the front. I'm more worried about the matching on the back side. And obviously, because this is a mirror image, this should fit nicely, and as you can see, it fits just perfectly. This rudder is symmetric, so it can go in this direction or it can go in the opposite direction as well. And again, I'm gonna match the back side of it as best as I can. Get this out of the way. So the thing is that you can glue this before you put the carbon on a trailing edge, but if you do that, you're gonna have a tough time getting into those corners, flat sanding and stuff like that. So a little bit of sequencing over here goes a long way, because it's the order of operations. You want to do them so that it just kind of makes sense and works in your advantage. Otherwise, you kind of paint yourself in a corner. So I want to make sure that I have a nice glue joint over here. By the way, when you put the leading edge carbon fiber on the rudder, it wants to take this end because of the spring into it. It wants to spring back in position. It wants to take apart this glue joint over here. So this glue joint, it's important to get a nice flat on flat and have a good glue joint over there. Okay. All right. So, and perhaps now I can just dig into it a little bit and get a nice flat surface to work on. And by the way, if you do not match this taper on the sides, when you glue this on, it wants to stay on a skewed angle. It's going to go like that or like that, depending on which way the taper is. But because you match the taper, then as you can see right now, it's a nice and flat. Okay, otherwise you'd probably see kind of like that, a lot of light into it, and will not stay flat. It's not a big deal, right? Because you can always dress it off and trim it off and maybe sand it flat a little bit to blend it in. But this, if you do it this way, it's going to help you quite a bit. So I'm going to blend this in a little bit. And I'm blending this in because I want to have a nice transition for the stick. I don't want to see it staying in the air over there. Okay. It really doesn't take much. A few swipes, and as you run your fingers through, you can see. Oh, there it is. And you can also see the transition being super nice and flat, solidly glued in, and we see the changing colors on both sides. You can still see the laser cut parts burned from the laser cut, so which means I almost didn't cut much of anything in here. This side on the bottom, it required just maybe a touch more sanding, nothing major. And even though it looks kind of, you know, dirty and stuff like that, it really doesn't matter at all, because once you're gonna flat sand the whole thing, it's gonna be really nice and beautiful. Okay, so these are some of the things I wanted to touch. Okay, another thing that you want to do right now is when you're gonna sand this guy, you probably want to assemble it together like this. And you can see this corner is high. I'm just trying to put it together and see how it looks like. And also I want to check the fitting here, because right now, yeah, see, it kind of stays by itself, which tells me, well, I'm kind of close over there, but I'm glad because it's close like that, because that tells me I did a good job on it. So what I can do now, I can take the trailing edge and throw it up a little bit. And I can take this trailing edge and throw it up a little bit too. And in all essence, if I take this off, I should be able to flip it over to the other side. Still not feel anything there, which is pretty good. That tells me it's symmetric. Not that it's super important, but it's nice to have it, right? So what I've done, I've sanded these two surfaces flat. I just try to put them together as much as possible, kind of like a semi-assembly. When you sand them both at the same time, then you're gonna have a nice matching trailing edge, and you know, everything is gonna match nicely. That's pretty much the goal of the sanding. And if before it just looks something like that, right now it looks just beautiful. Also, what you want to do here is you want to make sure it fits on the boom. I'm going to cheat a little bit right now because I have a little bit of a kind of a big gap in there. I'm going to try to sand it off a little bit and fill it in with dust. Fill the section in with some balsa dust, and I'm going to hit it with CA again. And I'm going to use the balsa dust as a filler into that corner. And you can see it's a little bit better now. Not perfect, but a little bit better. That's all we need for now, just a little bit better. Okay. And when I put the tabs on these guys, I try to stay away from putting tabs on the surfaces that are gonna mate together. So most likely you're gonna find the tabs on the outside of those areas. So I have no tabs over here where I glue it. And also on the triangle you see there's no tab in here. Another trick is if you're not sure which is which, because this little triangle you can put like that, you can see on the side that does not fit, the side does not fit, see it has a little bit of a break. If you put it correctly, it flows. Okay, and now if you look from this direction, you see how much angle is in between the two of them? That's because of the laser cut taper. When a laser is cutting, it's cutting like this. It's just kind of small on the bottom, big on the top, right? So there's a little trick to this thing. Like when you put it together, you see how big of a gap it's over there? You want to take this part and just put it on the opposite end. And if you put it on the correct end, you shouldn't see any gap in there, okay? And the same with, it does go the same with this triangular parts, right? If you put them in the right place, you will see no gap. And also when you put them together, you can see they stay nice and flat. See if that all of these pieces come together and made nicely in there. Okay, so I'm gonna fill the leading edge, check the trailing edges here. So that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna hit this with CA. Use a Q-tip. Then I'm gonna put this on too. I'm trying to fill the trailing edge, make sure it's nice and snug. More glue. Q-tip again. Oof. Alright, not a problem. And for this side, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. And there you go. That's pretty nice. I'm gonna dress over the trailing edge. So now I have a nice transition all the way through. Now I'm gonna dress off this other edge. Again, nice transition. Gonna do the leading edge. A few swipes, that's always needed. A little bit on the corner. If you run your finger over it, you shouldn't feel any bumps or anything like that of that sort. Here, it's one. Nice. And the tip. This is good. Okay. And now I'm ready to flat sand it. I'm just going to put it together like this. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bridge all the way across and do like a block sanding. You can also go like this, a little bit. Oops. There you go. It's a pretty fragile joint, so you have to be careful about it. If it pops loose, it's no big deal. I guess you just have to glue it back on. And as you can see, the glue joint was only on the top here, so that's okay. What I'm gonna do now, since I'm re-gluing it, I'm gonna put glue on both sides, make sure I have a nice nice joint over there. That also tells me that it was a nice mating on a face, because as you go flat on flat, the glue doesn't like to wick. If you have just a tiny bit of gap, it's gonna wick all the way through. But right now, I'm gonna correct that issue right away. I'm sure that I glue it in thoroughly. What I'm doing, I'm trying to achieve two flat surfaces that match each other. And I'm just gonna bridge it like this, all the way across. I'm not trying to push down on it, I'm just merely moving it back and forth. If I apply pressure, it's very light and very gentle. I'm not trying to rush this thing, I'm just trying to move slowly. And you can see when you're done, because the surfaces are changing the colors and they become, you know, just look nice. And once that happens, I'm just moving over. You can also use these wider surfaces, like the tips, as a bridge to sand in the center. Obviously if you sand over here, you don't have a whole lot of material and you tend to dig in. But if you use like the edges, you're gonna have like a better bridge, and you can have a nice surface, and you want a flat surface after all. Look, it's beautiful all the way around. Now you also create a bunch of dust that's gonna go inside these little nicks and crannies, and we're gonna touch them off as when we're done sanding for this side. I'm gonna just put some more CA in those grooves. And one more thing is, like when you sand in this direction, you wanna take this end and just snap it off, so you can cheat a little bit and you can flip it over and sand in this direction, and you just put pressure in it when you go in that direction, back, release, and just put pressure, release, and just put pressure again, kind of like that. So right now I'm going to take advantage of this situation, and wherever I see like spots that where I kind of have a little gap over there, I'm going to go ahead and touch them off with CA. And the balsa dust that's in the corners is going to work as a nice filler. And don't forget to put it on top of something that's not going to glue on. And actually, if you want to, you can just touch all of them. I'm gonna get a Q-tip. Actually, no, doesn't need it. Alright, so now I can go back to the same side that I just sanded off, and I'm gonna touch it off again and get rid of these marks, you know, the super glue hard spots. Only this time it just needs a few swipes, since it's already done, right? And a quick run with your finger over those edges. It's gonna tell you immediately if you're done or not. So that's done. I'm gonna flip it over. Do the same thing to this side. The thickness of it is not really that important as long as you put the carbon fiber rod on the leading edge and the trailing edge in the center. Okay, so that's the purpose of sanding this right now. And I think this piece is pretty much done. I'll touch it off one more time here. On the other side. I think that's it. That looks pretty good. And now I have a set thickness, and we can put the leading edge and the trailing edge carbon fiber rods. This is the other side. It looks okay. Alright, that will work for me. This is the rudder part. Looks pretty good. When I'm going to glue the leading edge and the trailing edge on these parts, you want to do it separate, right? You're going to glue it. I think it's a good thing to start here with these little pieces, then overlap the little piece. The little piece is going like that, and the big piece is going to stay like this on top of it, and you're going to start to work all the way around. And that's because of when you hit the ground with the rudder, you want this piece to push on a hard spot, which is going to be the cross piece that goes in the other direction. Okay, so alright, leading edge, trailing edge. I'm just going to rough cut them first. I can make sure that I'm centered. Or you can use a couple of pieces of tape. It's probably the best thing to do. Just cut yourself a couple small pieces of tape. And just tape it around. See, right now I don't care where it is. I just want to pull down on this tape and just make sure it's taped down pretty good. And after that you can move it in position. It's a lot easier to control, a lot easier to position, hold, touch it there, touch it there. This guy is done. I mean, really, the tape helps quite a lot. Alright, now this part here is gonna overlap in this direction, so I need to sand this end off. Or you can just cut it off. Put your scissors like that and cut it off. Scissors over here are just gonna work just fine. What I want to do, I'm just gonna give it a couple of swipes of sandpaper to make it nice and true to the edge here. Alright. And now we have the big piece. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay, I need to move it over a little bit. It's overlapping. Good. Well, obviously you can measure it whichever way. There are many ways of getting this thing done. So I'm just going to tape it off. And right now I'm going to use the tape technique. I'm just going to tape it all the way across. And then I'm going to tack it in place. With CA. Then I'm going to remove the tapes. And give it a final taping. Right here, before you reach this hard corner, make sure you put plenty of tapes over there, because it wants to lift over there. And really, I'm not that worried about it lifting up over here, because I can just push it down, glue it, and hold it a little bit. You can also have a little extra piece of tape ready to go, so you can tape it around while when you're at this glue joint. So you can look at it like this and make sure it's nice and centered. That looks good. This corner looks a little high. See that? Push it down a little bit. Same here, needs to go down a little bit. And that looks good. It's tough to see in dark on dark. Okay, that's pretty good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna tack it in place. Give it a drop of glue and open. It's open like that. And then I'm gonna get the back side. I'm just gonna push it in, center it, push it in, and glue it too. I'm gonna get a piece of tape here. Tape it in good. Alright. By the way, this arching of the leading edge spar is like on a bow and arrow. It's going to give it a lot of extra strength, torsional rigidity, and so on and so forth. And that's what we're looking for on these parts. Alright. After I remove the tape, I'm going to have to re-glue the whole thing. make sure I have a nice glue joint. One other thing that this carbon fiber rod is gonna serve, besides reinforcing the leading edge and the trailing edge, is also gonna serve us as a hard stop for when we're gonna tape the when you're gonna sand taper the trailing edge and the leading edge. I'm building the tails because I want to cover most of the sanding that takes place into the plane, and some of the more finicky sanding, and there'll be more, you know, the sanding that you need to pay attention to. It happens right here at the trailing edge and the leading edge of the stabilizer and the rudder, and these are really places where you want to, you know, pay a little bit more attention. Make sure you're centered, make sure you're good. And if we glue this in center, that's going to be very easy, because what happens, we're going to sand off like this in this direction. We're going to put some support material on one end, so it's going to hold the angle constant. And when you sand it off, we're going to sand it off until we hit the carbon fiber rod, and that's where we're going to stop. And because the balsa will be so thin at this edge here, what happens is that if you didn't have the carbon fiber rod, it would be just hard to cover, hard to work with it, hard to, you know, it's just hard, okay? It has a lot of, it wants to collapse when you tighten up the wing skin. And you certainly those are things that you don't want to have to deal with. I keep looking from this direction, right from the top down, make sure that it's centered. Okay. And when you're happy with it, you can just start tacking it in place. Okay, that's good. And put a drop over there. That's good too. Give it a drop. This one needs to move up a little bit. I'm just gonna hold it in place. Like that. This one is perfect, but I'm sure it wants to move a little bit, so I'm just gonna hold it in place with the fingers. Give it a drop of glue. And believe it or not, one drop of glue it all the way up to here. So this thin glue will travel. I'm using a little brute force right now to straighten it up. And that's okay. Give it a nice bit of glue. This part is done. Okay. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing over the rudder sections, identical to what I did over there. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna just take some double stick tape. I'll just put it on. Like that. And then I'm gonna get this guy in. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna match this side with that side of the tape. Okay? And I'm gonna center it nicely. Try to put it as center as possible. So I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna go sideways, center sideways, over there, and that is pretty close. Okay. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna use this as a edge, and I'm gonna start to sand off. So what I'm doing, I'm going back and forth. I'm trying not to put so much pressure over here on this side because you may bow like that a little bit. So you mostly move it sideways, and most of your pressure sits right here and not actually on top of it, but it's more centered towards the leading edge. And the goal here is just to start to touch that carbon fiber rod, which will act as a hard stop for the sanding job. And as soon as it's done, you just move your hands over to a different spot, and you insist on that spot a little bit more. And now, then you move over to the different spot, and you can feel it, and you can also hear it at the same time. Another telltale sign, you can see the black from the carbon fiber starts to show off. You can also check it out, see if it's good. And what you're actually doing, you're pivoting around this point over here or off of this edge. It's okay to push down, to warp it a little bit to get it to sand down. It's gonna bounce right back into position when you're done. I cut a piece of scrap from the leftover material and I put some double stick tape on it. After that I cut this guy about 1 inch shorter than the inside to inside dimension. I'm going to double stick tape it as centered as I can do it. What I'm doing here when I put it on, I'm trying to keep it flush to the surface. So now what you do here, you have a kind of tilde cut, right? So you can sand it off like that until you touch the carbon fiber, and you just keep sanding. And you're moving your hands over like that, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, and you change your sanding, let's call it the point of interest, right? Because your goal is to get it to sand in one certain position, right? And you want to sand it until you touch that carbon fiber rod. So if you remember, or earlier in my video, when we put this carbon fiber rod on the leading edge, this is one of the points that I was trying to make, is that the carbon fiber rod right now works as a hard stop. So it's a lot harder to sand through the carbon fiber than sand through the balsa wood. And because of that, it's going to make our life a lot easier now when we try to sand this section. So I'm just trying to be careful. You can feel it. When it hits, it changes noise, the sound is changing. can also run your fingers over it. Just go like that. You can even see it if it's not sanded correctly. If you go like that with your nail, you can feel it too. So there you go, it's done. Moving over a little bit. And once you're done with all of that and you're happy with it, you can take a block and just try to blend this in a little bit. When you try to blend this in, try to use your fingers a lot and just feel it around and touch it and check it out and see where the high spots are, what doesn't feel right. It's a bump here, it's a bump there, whatever. So, and when you find something that you don't like, you just touch it off. And again, I'm gonna get this little sanding block and just go forward. Try to knock off that high point. Very gentle pressure. And that's it. All I have to do now is just put a bevel on the leading edge, and that's it. And for the bevel on the leading edge, you just hold like that about 45 degrees and just sand back and forth. And if you're really worried about it, you can see as you sand, you start to touch this edge here. That's when you stop. Cuts nice and even. I'm actually not putting a whole lot of pressure, just I'm taking my time. As you can see, this advances just very slowly. I need to get more from this side, so I'm just going to move my hands on that direction and sand from this side a little bit more. And really you want to get a real sharp edge in here. And because it's so sharp and weak, what you want to do, you want to harden it. Just take something CA, just go in there. And get that edge hard. When you harden the edge, it becomes easier to work with it. It's more friendly.